price Jesus paid for us. He was betrayed by his disciple Judas. Jesus' pain was not just physical. Can you imagine the sorrow he felt when one of his own trusted friends became the ultimate traitor? We aren't exactly sure how to calculate the modern value of 30 pieces of silver, but many scholars suggest about $950. All the pain Jesus endured on Good Friday began the night before, when Judas took blood money to have his master arrested. Think about it. There's a bit of Judas in all of us, and we all betrayed Jesus to get our own way. Yet he chose to forgive us. He was abandoned by his own followers. We often focus on Peter's denial of Jesus, but the scriptures remind us that all of Jesus' disciples left him and fled after his arrest. Jesus had to suffer alone. All the men he had taught and invested in for 3.5 years abandoned him in his hour of need. Think about it. Jesus paid it all. He accomplished his work of redemption without our help, but he forgave us for our denials. He carried the burden of sins of the world. Jesus' greatest agony didn't start on the cross. It began at Gethsemane, where God laid on his Son the sins of the world. Jesus agonized so intensely in those moments that he sweat drops of blood. Scholars say he probably developed a condition known as hematidrosis, in which blood is emitted through the sweat glands because of intense stress. Think about it. Your sin was transferred to Jesus' account, and he bore the punishment you deserved. He was falsely accused and rejected by Jewish leaders. Can you imagine the heartache Jesus experienced when the very people he was sent to save spat in his face, blindfolded him, cursed him, and accused him of blasphemy? The Sanhedrin set up a kangaroo court and sentenced the Son of God to death. Think about it. Jesus did not open his mouth in self-defense when he was falsely accused. Now, when Satan accuses you, Jesus argues your case and declares you not guilty. He was mocked and abused by Roman guards. After Pilate caved into pressure from the Jews, Roman soldiers flagged Jesus with a whip, drove a crown of thorns into his scalp, beat his head with sticks, and mockingly pretended to worship him. The flogging alone, which would have involved leather cords and pieces of lead or bone attached, would have drained much of Jesus' blood. Think about it. Jesus could have called an angel to stop his torture, but he chose to endure the pain because he loved us. He was crucified between two thieves. We cannot even fathom the pain of crucifixion. Metal spikes were driven into Jesus' hands and feet, and he had to slide his mangled body up against the wood of the cross in order to catch his breath. And because it was the habit of Romans to crucify criminals naked, Jesus endured the ultimate shame. What's more, he hung on that crude cross next to two men who had been convicted of crimes while he was completely innocent. Think about it. We should have been on death row, not Jesus, but he took our place. His body was pierced with a spear. Even after Jesus took his last breath, a soldier jabbed a spear up through the chest cavity, most likely to make sure Jesus was dead. John tells us that blood and water spilled out, evidence that the spear pierced the pericardium, the sac around the heart. Jesus' heart was literally broken for us. Think about it. Just as Adam's side was open to bring forth the first woman, Jesus' side was open to bring forth the church. His piercing produced a fountain of life for us. He tasted death for all. This is the most horrible reality of the cross. Christ did not die metaphorically or symbolically. He died literally. The Son of God, who had never sinned and who was least deserving of death, died so we could have life. His heart stopped beating. He stopped breathing and his spirit left him. 1 Peter 3:18 says, "For Christ also died for sins once and for all, the just for the unjust, so that he might bring us to God." Think about it. Because Jesus died in our place, we no longer have to die. Eternal life is his free gift to us.